The below glitch experience happened to me around 15, 17 years ago, when I was first dating my then girlfriend, now wife, and I was a new young driver. I think this happened around the year 2004-2005, and this has relevance. For the record, I was not under the influence of alcohol, any kinds of drugs, legal or illegal, and wasn't under the weather or exhausted, just in case anyone would assume so. I have never been a great timekeeper, and was often late for things. This particular evening, I had to arrange to take my girlfriend to the cinema, but I got home from work a little late, and by the time I left home after getting ready myself, we didn't have long to get to the cinema before the film start time. I jumped into my car, a 92 Fiat Punto, which was extremely common in the UK at that time for a young driver, as they were cheap to insure. I then put my foot down a little to try and claw back some time. I then turned a corner a little too fast onto the last straight road onto my girlfriend's house, which was about 3 or 4 miles long, straight, housing one side, and grass to the other, and street lights. To my surprise, the road was clear of traffic this evening, so I kept going a little faster than I should. I reached down to skip the track on the stereo, and look back up, and I suddenly see halfway down the road, a figure had appeared out of nowhere. The figure stood in the middle of the road holding his hand out for me to stop. As I get closer, I noticed it was a police officer, and I thought, oh shit. I slowed my car down, and pulled over to the side of the road to a stop. I opened my window, and the officer walks over to me, and he asks me in a stern voice to exit the vehicle and come to the back of the car. I got out as instructed, and he starts asking me questions. Where was I going? Where I was coming from? How long had I been driving? The usual. He then asks me about the excessive speed on this road, and I apologize and explained I was late picking up my girlfriend. No, there was an excuse, and I expected him to give me a ticket on the spot. This police officer then pulls out a small notepad and a tiny pencil. He rolls through a number of pages with lots of notes until he found a blank page. As his head was down looking at his pad, he asked me for my number plate. I read it out to him as he jointed it down, and once finished, he then looks up at the plate and asks why my number plate was yellow. I explained it came with my vehicle. Hold this thought by the way. He then asks me what the make model was. As I mentioned before, it was a Fiat Punto, to which the police officer said, never heard of that model before, and he added it to his notebook. Also keep that in mind. He puts his notepad and pencil away in his jacket, and it's at this point I notice his uniform. It wasn't the type of uniform we had in the early 2000s in the UK, but rather something more old-fashioned from the 50s or 60s, like this. The helmet, buttons, boots, everything was in pristine condition. The officer then explains he would take his notes back to the station this evening, and that he and the other officers would keep an eye out for me and my speeding. He then said I should also get my rear plate changed back to the standard black color. Otherwise, I may get a fine next time. Hold that thought also. He then gave me a warning and wished me on my way. I jumped back in the car. I put my seatbelt on and looked in my rear view mirror as I pulled away. I glanced forward for a couple of seconds and then looked again in my mirror, and the officer was gone. I had a clear view of the road behind me, either side. As I said, it was a straight road, but the officer had vanished into thin air. It wasn't until I got home after the cinema I started thinking about what happened, and something didn't match up. My first thought was that someone in a fancy dress, but the uniform was much better quality and well looked after to be a cheap fancy dress. I then thought about some of his comments and wondered where this officer may have come from. I did some reason and come to these conclusions for his questions. Number 1. Why were my rear number plate yellow and I should change it back to the back plate? In the UK, Since 1973, all rear number plates needed to be reflective yellow. Vehicles before this year were black. Number 2. Has he never heard of a Fiat Punto? As I mentioned, it was a very common car during this time in the UK. Any current police officer would have known this. My thought is due to the questions, his outfits and vanishing act, that he may be from another time period and glitched into my reality. Or if he was a spirit of a dead police officer who doesn't realize he is dead and continues his beat. There's a slim chance it's some police hobbyist who likes walking around late at night, stopping traffic. But that's much more boring. I shall never know. Thanks for listening. Something impossible happened. Last night, I was sitting in my bed, not sleepy or too tired or whatsoever. I saw a video on YouTube, and I found it weirdly funny, so I was a little smiling when I got my head up from the phone. Across the room, there are 4 big carpets that just got back from the cleaning place, so they all are wrapped in plastic and placed half horizontally, like not completely lying on the ground, but almost. I then saw one of them get up by itself in a fully erect position. It moved, and got up just like a human. And these things are heavy, like very, very heavy. It wouldn't be easy, like something that I could do with one hand, for me to get that huge carpet roll into that position. Now I do not believe in ghosts, spirits, shadow people, possessed items, etc. Not in the slightest. I wish I would, so I could at least have an explanation that I genuinely believed, and wouldn't be losing it right now. I am trying to make myself believe that I somehow slept while I was sitting down, and had that weird dream. And the carpet was like that since I put them there, but it's not helping since I am the very person that dragged them up there. Meaning, I didn't want to spend effort on putting them straight like a tower. That's why I dragged them. I don't have any logical explanation, and I am scaring myself by overthinking about it. I would be more than happy if someone could just give me an explanation that makes sense. Update. I forgot to say the reason why we sent it for cleaning. It was because of bloodstains. I came home from college to stay in my mom's house during quarantine. About a month ago, my sister, who was 10 years old, was alone in the living room and had a really big glass of water with her. She put it on the carpet and forgot about it. A while later, she fell on it while trying to do a jumping trip and cut her leg up pretty bad. She screamed in panic, and I came from the kitchen, and I could see her body flat while blood gushing out of the wound. I nearly fainted, but I managed to call my mom and take a picture of the wound in case they need it. After they went, the carpet was soaked in blood, and I literally threw up. We dealt with stitches and stuff, and now she is fine. So my mother decided to send most of the carpets to cleaning along with the bloody one. Thinking of that makes it even more interesting. One rainy day, everything froze all around me. So I work at a hardware store. You know, normally busy even when it's raining. Everyone was coming in preparing for this hurricane that was coming within the next couple of days. Buying all the usual things you would to prepare for such an occurrence. Generators, plywood sheathing, flashlights, all things of the sort. But this day was almost dead in the store. We had maybe 5 orders the entire day. I work in the online order department. You know, you go online, place the order, and we go and pick it up and bring it to your car. Since this whole pandemic thing, people don't want to come in the store. Normally before hurricanes, nothing stops people from coming inside and buying the essentials. But today, there was a really big thunderstorm rolling through. The type of thunder that sounded like it was right next to you. The type that shook the store when the thunder hit, which meant no one wanted to go out during this anyways. Once the rain and everything let up a bit, it started getting busy as it would. This is the time I was getting off work, which was lucky for me, because I had an easy day with nothing to do. But once I got outside of my car and got out to the main intersection, it started downpouring again, like in the blink of an eye. So everyone cut their windshield wipers on so they could see. The rain wasn't letting up, and by the time I got to the next light, everything froze. No rain, no windshield wipers moving, nothing. Everything was a standstill, and it's not like they had just turned off their wipers. It's like when your wipers are on and you cut the car off, they can get stuck in an upright position on your windshield. And everyone's cars was like that. The light stayed red for a while, for what felt like 3 minutes of no movement or anything. Then like someone flipped a switch, everything was back to normal. Heavy rain wipers going, the light turned green, and everyone went about their day like usual. I've been trying to come up with a rational explanation for what happened on that day, and maybe some of you guys can help me figure out what I experienced. Out of the blue, in college, I was relaxing in my dorm room between classes, and I suddenly had the weirdest panic attack. I've never had one before, or since, and this one was about the color blue. It was terrible and foreboding and evil. Like the color blue was everywhere, coding me and everything around me, until there was nothing at all. It took me quite a few minutes to stop shaking and calm down enough to even look around me, and that's when I saw the clock, and I realized I was late for class. I then headed off through campus on foot. While crossing the street, I looked down and saw I was wearing a blue sweatshirt and carrying a blue binder. I'd figured that those two items, plus sleep deprivation, must have triggered the panic attack. But then in that same instant, I found myself slammed against the hood of a car and rolling up the windshield. It happened all at once, but at the same time, I felt like the going over the windshield part happened in slow motion. I couldn't see the driver, but what I could see was the reflection of unbelievably deep blue sky and clouds overhead. The car's brakes hit, and I rolled back down and off toward the driver's side. I was shaken up, but unhurt. The driver jumped out to ask if I was okay. He was wearing jeans and a blue shirt, and his car was sort of a deep Easter egg blue. Not a factory color, but a custom job. The guy apologized profusely, saying he totally missed a stop sign because the weather had been so crappy lately. But then he couldn't believe how blue the sky was that day and was looking up when he hit me. To this day, I'm still not sure what all that meant. The actual event was nowhere near as scary as the original feeling, where I swear it felt like I was being smothered to death by the color blue. Was it just me skipping ahead, or was it a premonition? And what's the purpose of a premonition if you can't actually do anything about it? Hey guys, it's me Lucid. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider liking the video, as it helps me know that you enjoy my content. It also helps me reach a wider audience. But with that being said, these Matrix stories are sure wondrous. But are they real? Are they fake? That's for you to decide. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you next time. And as always, the dark is simply the answer.